Hello, everyone. This is our
Olivia.
This is our podcast, and this is Audrey.
Hi, I'm Audrey.
And I am Olivia.
Which you've already said.
Oh yeah, wait.
This is going swimmingly.
Yes, this is going so great.
So Olivia, what are we doing today?
Today we'll be talking about friends to foes, enemies to lovers.
Can you expand? Yeah.
So, for this podcast, we're going to be talking about platonic and romantic relationships, as well as a little bit of sexual relationships intertwined.
And trying to find a healthy balance between each of those different kinds of relationships and setting boundaries with people to make sure that you maintain those healthy relationships.
Which, as a teenager, is ridiculously hard.
It's hard to do. There's a lot of lack of maturity with people that don't want to communicate.
Exactly.
With their friends and partners. So.
God. So many embarrassing and detrimental experiences.
It's true. Let's delve right in. Our first point is there's a societal pressure that is particularly present in American dating culture, and I'm pretty sure it stems from a lot of the high school romance that's romanticized in media, such as High School Musical. And to all the boys I've ever loved before, it kind of portrays high school romance as kind of like an idealized version when it's in reality not the same kind of love stories you're going to see on movies and TV.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, my high school experience. From middle school, I came into high school thinking I was going to, find the love of my life. And we're going to ride into, a waterfall in the sunset.
On horseback.
With my afro flowing in the wind. But realistically, I think we kind of forget that finding romantic partners in general, even in a space that we're all centered in, a high school, is difficult. It's not something that's
it comes easy.
Gonna come easy.
They're gonna fall into your arms.
Exactly.
And sometimes it can seem like that's the case because if you look at people around you, you can see people holding hands and cuddling around your school and think wow, they have a significant other. What's wrong with me? Why don't I have one?
Yeah, especially as a person. Oh my God, as a person of color. No, especially living in a white community, that's not really how it goes, per se. It's just kind of more difficult to break your way into the little romantic little stepping stone of life. But that's okay. There's really no pressure. And there's no timeline, because I feel as we grow up, we gotta realize it's not a linear situation. People accomplish different things at different times because that's how their life is set out to be. It's so weird because even in middle school, when your friends would be oh my God, I'm my second boyfriend or my second girlfriend, and you'd be sitting there just damn.
I think, especially for women, a lot of our maturity milestones depend on the relationships we've had with others, first kiss and are you a virgin? When's your first time?
Yeah.
Which is very detrimental in your overall growth as a person because it's kind of surrounded around those milestones per se.
And I also think that gets us into a lot of unfortunate situations because we, as you said, we think that growing up is surrounded by these, romantic experiences, and we end up rushing things.
Because we want to, grow it faster.
Yeah.
It's just, you have no obligation to, but for some reason, a lot of people...
I don't get that. It's just, I think we all need to just take a step back. It's my bad. And just realize that, just go with the flow. Going with the flow is such a relaxing choice to make because you don't feel like you're pressuring yourself and anybody else is pressuring you to do anything you don't really feel comfortable with.
And I think a lot of it also has to do with self-esteem issues.
Oh Lord.
Another reason why someone might want to jump into a relationship before they're necessarily ready is because the desire to feel wanted by others in order to validate oneself, because if you can't get validation from yourself, they're going to want it from external sources, which usually aren't always the best, depending on where you're trying to seek them from.
Yeah.
So.
Jesus. We could go into a deep hole.
We could go into a deep hole with that.
So, okay. So, I'm thinking about, the quote-unquote relationships. I don't count them as relationships in a romantic sense, because they were a month. But...
I mean, my shortest one was a couple hours, so, a month is pretty good in my book.
Yeah. But I'm thinking about it, and once you do get to that age or that, comfortable state where you are, in a relationship, there are some things you really need to take into consideration. Because as we're growing up, we're obviously going to make mistakes. But in a relationship, I think you need to realize that your mistakes can affect other people.
True.
And their mistakes can affect you. So I think having a healthy environment is something that you really, really need to take into consideration, even before thinking about, like, getting into a relationship. Like, is the person that you're interested in, do you think that they're truly a good person? Just not for you, but, like, a good person in general.
And I think there's an interesting balance between being insecure as a person and also being self-centered. Because there's a lot of times they can overlap in the sense that, like, you can be insecure, but also not understand your impact on others when you say certain things or act a certain way. And that's just, again, with emotional immaturity, just not being able to see outside of yourself and how your actions affect the people you talk to every day, your friends and your partners.
Exactly. And a funny story, I am, 18? I just turned 18 years old, and I've been in, like, one-ish, heavy on the ish. Relationship, and it was one of the most interesting experiences, I'd say, because first of all, we both never dated before, and I was kind of like peer pressured into it, because they're like, you've never dated, this is a great time for you to explore, you'd be so good for this person, you would help them branch out and stuff.
And that was coming from your friends.
Coming from my friends, and it was like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I'm really not ready for this, like this isn't really something I'm comfortable with, but you know, since everybody else thinks it's a good idea, I should just go along with it. Which, people, I'm telling you, listen, like, I'm pointing to this phone that we're recording on right now. Please listen to your gut feeling. Because it's not, people say, it's like, oh my god, those are just, like, doubts and, like, second guesses. No, that is your intuition.
Hasn't anybody told the story about, like, if all your friends try and jump off a roof, are you going to jump off a roof too? Hell no. Do not listen to them, listen to your gut.
Exactly. And in this, like, month-ish, almost a month experience, I had gone through all the stages of grief because I was getting dismissed and disrespected, and, like, I just wasn't being treated very well. And, like, my well-being and my, like, mentally wasn't really valued in the relationship either. So it's just, like, when I wanted to get something off my chest or communicate, I would always get, like, cut off and whatever. And I'm thinking back and I'm hearing all my friends' other experiences like this. This is like a pretty common experience that you're having as a teenager because you're not really that emotionally mature yet.
Yeah, just not taking your partner's needs into account whatsoever.
But I do think that there's some, like, basic logic that really goes behind this, that, like, well, if this person's uncomfortable, obviously I need to, like, try to understand why. But even so, some people don't try. And that's why we're getting into toxic relationships, and we want to deep dive into this. Because I think as a teenager, these first relationships you get into, they kind of set a foundation.
They're pretty formative.
Yeah.
And, like, how you view your future relationships. It can be hard to get into future ones if you've already had bad experiences, which is mostly your first relationships are going to be made out of bad experiences.
Yeah.
So I think what we really can learn from that kind of stuff is that you need to be able to set personal boundaries with people and communicate above everything else. Because even just in that first couple, like, days of dating someone, being able to set that and having them, you can tell based on how they react to them. Like, I'm not okay with this, I am okay with this. If they're, like, already off the bat being, like, trying to make you, pressure you into being okay with something that you're not, then, like, you can already kind of tell that that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, and you know the phrase, like, you gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable? That's only valid to an extent, I think. Like, of course, when you're intertwined with somebody else, of course you're not gonna have the exact same, like, what's it called, like, tastes and hobbies and stuff and ideas as you. And, you know, sometimes there might be a little conflict.
Yeah, they don't have to be your twin, but you have to have the same core, like, understanding, mutual understanding of,
mutual
like,
understanding.
What's okay, what's not okay.
Yeah, like, even with that, I'm just like, there's only so much that somebody could take with something being differing, especially when it comes to, like, morals and ethics.
Yes, exactly,
so
your values.
Like, yeah, you could be a little uncomfy sometimes, and, like, you would get comfortable to, like, adjust to certain things, but you can only adjust so much.
Because there's a difference between, like, having, like, a different favorite color and then just, like, being completely insensitive about someone's, you know.
Exactly.
Because I know your ex-boyfriend, was it, that he would just... Do you want to go a little bit into the kinds of things that he would do?
It's, like, thinking back on this, I can't stop laughing because I'm kind of embarrassed about it as a whole, just because I allowed some things to happen. But I do...
Well, you were young.
Yeah, I was... This was, like, what, sophomore-ish year?
Yeah, so 14, 15.
But I think... Well, I'm black, and he was, like, Mexican, and he would say the N-word. And as soon as, like, I heard it the first time, and I was like, whoa, no, I'm not comfortable with this, and I put him aside, and I was just like, we talked a little bit about it, and then, like, it happened again, so I was calling him, and then he hung up on me in the middle of my conversation. I was like, this not gonna work, this, because, like, at the first time, it just slipped out, and he was saying it in, like, a song, so I was just like, even so, I was still, like, super uncomfortable, and I was like, this is ridiculous, especially you having a black girlfriend and you not understanding the issue with it, because his reasoning behind it was that, like, everybody's saying it, I'm not saying it in, like, a racist way, why are you being so overdramatic? As soon as he said that,
basically just kind of gaslighting.
Right, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, so this is the type of person you are. Like,
because he's trying to make his own fault into something that you're being, like, overdramatic or oversensitive about, which...
And don't let people tell you you're being overdramatic with something that is negatively affecting you, because your whole reaction and opinions are valid. Like, I think that's why communication is so important, because if I wouldn't have said anything, I don't think he would have, like, learned from the experience at all. Because I cut that off real quick. You gotta have, like, I call it the 1.5 strike system. I always talk about this with you at school, but I'm just like, you'll address the situation once, and if they don't understand it and they keep on doing it, like, it's
that's the easiest way to tell if your relationship is, like, unhealthy or toxic, is just that they keep disrespecting the boundaries you've already set with them.
Especially with, like, something so serious like a slur. Like, come on.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not saying it with the ER. I don't care.
That is not relevant.
Care.
But
yeah.
Yeah, you really need to be honest with yourself when it comes to those things. Like, what are you... Any feelings that you're having that are just kind of, like, irk. Like, you kind of just feel something in your gut that's, like, wrong. You need to be able to bring that up with yourself and recognize it, and don't just put it away for the sake of, I should stay with this person because, you know, they're nice to me this time, they compliment me on this. Like, no, if you're having something that's, like, really bugging you about their behavior, that's an important thing like that, then you have to just kind of address it and not just try and put it away because you want to still have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend. Like, there's something that are more important.
Yeah, just, like, I think going into a relationship, even, okay, I'm saying this like I'm an expert. I'm not, guys. I've only been in one. But this is just some things I've noticed, especially from all, like, my friends and my family members. I've heard all their horror stories. But it's just, like, if you cannot actively communicate with your significant other and you feel like you cannot speak up about certain things, then maybe you should step back and, like, maybe detach yourself a little bit. Because if you're not mature enough to speak your mind, then the relationship will not be as healthy as you want it to be.
Exactly.
Because no one is perfect, and that is okay. But there will be some conflicts that you'll have to go over and discuss. And that's important to growing. And yeah.
In one of my relationships, I was with this person that just really... I don't fault someone for wanting to, like, talk to me a lot. I mean, if we're in a relationship, that's going to happen. But to the point where you're, like, calling someone, like, every single day and, like, demanding attention and demanding validation constantly is something that I wasn't really comfortable with, because it's like, you already know that I like you. I don't know why I have to reaffirm this constantly. I know it's because they're insecure now. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
But, and they would bring it up because they could tell that I was uncomfortable. Sometimes they would ask me, like, what's wrong? Why aren't you reacting this way? And I would just be like, oh, everything's fine. Like, I didn't really want to, like, come to terms with it because I didn't want to seem like I was a bad partner for trying to ruin things by not cooperating with, you know, what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really just can't shoulder that kind of stuff. You have to just bring it out. Communication, most important thing. You have to be able to communicate and not just kind of bear this burden, because that's, in the long run, will be more comfortable for you and also for them, because it's either way it's going to crash and burn at some point. You might as well just get it over with now instead of dragging it out for
exactly. And, like, touching back on that with, like, the feeling the weight, I do think there has to be a level of, like, push and pull. What I'm trying to say is just, like, especially with, like, mental health per se, I think the biggest kind of trait in toxic relationships, besides, like, emotional immaturity, is just the fact that we are children. And some of our mental health needs and stuff, like, we're still growing. And we don't really know how to navigate these experiences and feelings. And I think that we start to get into these relationships to depend on people.
Yeah.
And make these people our outlets and make them our crutch. And as nice as it may feel in the beginning, it is not healthy at all. And it's extremely draining on both parts.
They're not your therapists. They are not getting paid to put up with your BS 24/7.
No, because I'm thinking about these conversations I would have to have with my friends with their significant others. It's just like, they're not in a very good place. They're saying they're going to harm themselves, and they're saying they're going to do this, this, and that. But I'm just like, okay, there's multiple ways you can navigate this situation. And a lot of them may not be comfortable for the other person, but it's in their best interest. Like, reaching out to an adult.
Exactly.
Like, I know we don't really trust them that much. But I think it's a pretty good idea to maybe reach out to an adult, give them some resources.
Resources are important.
Very important. Because we can only be a shoulder to lean on and someone you could talk to about certain subjects for so long, because those take a toll on you.
But you're not going to be someone's lifeline when they're constantly crisising.
Exactly. Because it's just so interesting, and it's really sad because just seeing the energy being drained out of certain people. Because they're in these relationships where they are in a position where this person is solely dependent on them for their well-being and their happiness. That's not really the foundation of a very good relationship.
Yeah, it goes for friendships too.
Yeah,
friendships
exactly.
And relationships. They have a lot of, what's the word? Crossover.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
When it comes to unhealthy behaviors.
I do think, touching back on what Miss Audrey said a little while ago, it's like, I think it's going to be a little mean, but if you're insecure, don't think about getting into a relationship. Like, if you think that your self-worth and that your happiness
can only come from someone else's validation.
Exactly.
Then that's not your time.
Then that's not good, because you are going to get slapped in the face with reality.
It's going to be like a brick wall coming down on you if things don't.
And it's like, I think that a lot of insecurity is portrayed in a lot of different ways, especially with gender. Let's say, like male insecurity. I've noticed that it comes with a lot of control. And it's just like, you can only talk to this person, you can only wear this, you can not have relationships with these people, you need to tell me where you are, stuff like, things like that, right? And then with women, well, at least from my experience, I think, actually, let me take that back. I think that these, like, go back and forth. These go hand in hand. Both men and women have these experiences. But I'm just like, I feel like with women, it has a lot more to do with self-image more than it does control. Because they will use this person as like a mirror of what they value in themselves and how they see themselves and how much respect they think that they're supposed to get. And you're just sitting there like, well, you know, how are you supposed to navigate your life and like your self-image without this person? Like, when they're not in your life, because nobody's going to be there forever, which is kind of sad. But like,
and I think like those feelings, you can't fault yourself always for being jealous, because I feel like that's something that everyone experiences, but you can't act on it in a way that's that harmful. Like, you can see someone, like your boyfriend or your girlfriend, like talking to someone, laughing at their joke, and being like, you have to be grounded in reality, because what's the reality? Are they laughing at their joke because they're madly in love with them and they're gonna go like off into the sunset and make out with them and leave you behind, or are they just saying something funny? Like, you have to like really just think about, like, they're not gonna leave you. They're not trying to cheat on you, unless they are. But if you know your partner's a good person, then you have to just be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is my own crazy thoughts in my head right now. They're just kind of compiling and turning into something that it won't be good in the long run. You just have to kind of recognize that those kinds of thought processes.
And like, jealousy is a natural emotion. I think that we kind of like, what's the word? Like, demonize? I hate using that word because it's used so much. But
it's true.
But it's really true.
Stigmatized, demonized.
Stigmatized, that's the word. Jealousy, I say it's kind of like the root emotion of a lot of secondary emotions, because a lot of people get angry because they're jealous. A lot of people get sad because they're jealous. Jealousy. And it brings up a lot of these issues where just like, being jealous stems from this, and that. But, you know, of course it does, and that's okay. Like, all it is, I think what differentiates something from being, like, good, healthy, and more like, is just the way you go about it. Like, I know a lot of people who are jealous, but they could take a step back and be like, wait, what's the root of this? Yeah. Why am I feeling this way?
Just self-analysis.
Self-analysis is very important.
Yeah.
But if you're lashing out on people and causing a lot of distress towards other people and yourself just because, like, you're jealous. You need to just tone it down. Tone it down a little bit. Because it's not the
make that moment for self-reflection. That's really what sets apart someone who's, like, not ready to be in a relationship or, like, have a healthy friendship versus someone who is just being able to, like, reflect on your own shit going on in yourself.
Oh gosh. Every time I hear the word cheating, I get my stomach starts hurting. Because, you know what? I hate the excuse that, like, we're young and stuff, we're gonna make mistakes. You have your whole life ahead of you to be in a good relationship. Listen, if you can't fathom the idea that being in a relationship is something that involves commitment, like, straight up honest commitment, then you should not be in one. Because if you're just gonna cheat on somebody, then just be straightforward and be like, listen,
this isn't gonna work.
This is not gonna work out. And I hate the people who are just like, you don't understand everybody's circumstances and stuff. People cheat for different reasons. It's just the act of cheating that is, I feel like, is a little, like, what are you doing?
And I think the whole phrase, it's not you, it's me, is, like, probably the worst thing to hear. But honestly, if you're trying to cheat on someone, it is you. It's not them. So you kind of have to get that through to them that, like, if you really want to leave someone because you're, whatever problem in the ship, either you're, like, bored. I don't know why people feel like cheating, but if you're bored with the person or things are just aren't working out, then you have to, like, just express in some kind of way that, like, this is completely my problem and it's not necessarily your fault because I'm having these issues.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating a little bit because the way I interpret the act of cheating, it's kind of like a little selfish and cowardly.
Oh, definitely.
Because you would rather risk ending an entire relationship by being with somebody, like with somebody else for like a split second or a few minutes, hours, days, but you can't work up the courage to talk to your partner about some issues and communicate. Like, something is obviously more detrimental than the other, and, you know, if it's not working out, then why wouldn't you want to, like, try to figure it out and talk about it? But no, you have to sleep with somebody or something like that. Like, where's the logic?
It's just so shady too.
Not shaming anyone. Okay, I'm not shaming anyone who has cheated. Okay, I know it's a pretty common experience. But, like, just don't do it again, y'all.
Yeah, learn from your mistakes. Doing something once and then, like, getting cheated out for it. You think from then you would, like, learn to not do it again?
Yeah.
Some people don't get the right negative enforcement, though, afterwards. Sometimes people, like...
get coddled.
Yeah. And they'll just kind of try and forget that someone ever did something bad because they want to maintain, like, a good friendship with them. A lot of people, like, their friends will cheat on someone and... and because they don't want to forsake that friendship, they'll kind of excuse their actions or any kind of bad thing you've done to someone and just kind of, like, what is it called? Shove it under the rug in order to maintain a friendship with them, even if your friend necessarily isn't a great person. You know, I'm not saying that people can't grow and change and become better people, but if this person, in theory, is exhibiting these bad behaviors and instead of confronting them, you're just kind of, like, enabling them, then you're not a very good friend either. I'm sorry.
That is a very great way to look at it. I never even thought about it like that. Interesting. I think this would be a great transition into the friendships portion of this topic. And so many horror stories just from all the friendships that I've gone through and lived out through my, like, young 18 years of life. I think the, like, how do I say this? The best way and best lesson I've learned from these experiences is that you don't need a whole friend group. You do not need a swarm of people.
To be, like, your entourage wherever you go.
Yeah, that is not necessary. I think, even, like we said before, just becoming comfortable with yourself and being comfortable with a little self-space and not isolation, but a little bit of, like, loneliness.
Me time.
Yeah, me time. Me time is okay.
Enjoy your me time and be able to, like, have your me time without feeling this overwhelming loneliness that stems from your insecurity of having no friends. It doesn't mean you have no friends. It just means, like, you can just hang out by yourself. And
Exactly.
By yourself.
Exactly.
Or with a small group of people. Like, you don't need, like, a million at one time.
I feel like we want the appearance of having friends more than the actual connection.
Because a lot of friendships can be shallow if you try and, like, take on so many at a time with people that, like, you don't really know very well. You're just trying to, like, fit into some kind of crowd.
Because, oh God, being a friend, a quote-unquote friend, at the expense of your own well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that, that is not okay. Guys, I'm telling you, as we grow up, like, relationships as a whole are important. But I think we need to remember that healthy relationships are the most important. And I'm putting so much stress on this.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Just keep that in mind. Because I think, let's do a little story time.
Okay.
Another one. Because I have so many to share with everyone.
She does.
I had these friends with, like, middle school, throughout, like, middle school to about freshman and sophomore year, that I hung around for a majority of the time because, you know, I didn't really have anyone else. I was new to the area in middle school, and they were some of the first people who kind of adopted me into their group. But I wasn't really realizing that almost every interaction we had, I was the, like, butt of every joke. I was the punchline. I was constantly getting nitpicked about my appearance. And they're just like, it's a joke, it's okay. Like, don't overreact and stuff. And it even got to the point where I felt terrible about myself while I was interacting with these people. I thought I was the ugliest person in the existence of people. Just because it was like, guys and stuff were talking to them, and they were getting all the attention, and there was me, you know, who definitely...
What's that one movie that came, The Duff?
Oh my God, I thought I was the Duff.
Did you feel like, yeah.
But, you know, I took a step back and realized, like, now, I'm just like, girl, you live in a white community, and those are blonde, like, white girls. Of course, like, they're like, that was how it's gonna be. I shouldn't have interpreted that way. Like, of course I wasn't.
But you were young, and then they were saying these things to you that you didn't really know how to, like, comprehend in another way that wasn't just, like, viewing it as fact.
Exactly. And even throughout high school, it just kept on getting worse, especially to the point where I started having, like, romantic, like, encounters, and they would act surprised, and they would be like, huh? Like,
oh, you are able
you?
To?
Like, he likes you?
Oh.
Like, not chill. Not very cool at all. And, like, I think this is a common girl experience, because with these little friend groups and stuff, like, you're gonna meet some mean girls.
Definitely. And mean men.
Oh my God.
Mean boys.
Mean boys too. Mean thems, you know? all of those are gonna be checked off. And we need to learn how to go about these situations in a way where we don't think it's like a direct reflection.
And a lot of it works the same way as romantic relationships, in the sense that you can recognize someone's bad behaviors and then be able to, like, kind of ponder them and be like, is the things they're saying to me, like, real factual information, or is it just them being insecure about their own business and taking it out on me? Like, what's the actual message they're trying to say versus the one that's coming out of their mouth? You know what I mean?
Oh, man. But even touching back on the insecurity, I think a lot of these friendships are formed and destroyed out of insecurity. Because people create these special bonds with people that they think benefit them. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but okay, you might have heard this in Euphoria, but girls do, like in Jules' special episode, girls do create a little hierarchy, and they, like, analyze you and treat you accordingly based on, I don't know, like, your social status, based on the way you look, based on how rich you are. And people will start making these friends with people who they think are below them in order to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, to put them at the top of the food chain, socially.
And that's not okay, like, at all. It is very detrimental, especially to the person who is at, like, the end of it. And even to the person who is doing that, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you... That's insecurity,
and I think
at its fullest.
Another problem is, again, conformity when it comes to friend groups, especially. Like, if you see one person speaking out about something, maybe, and then all of your other friends are, like, you know, what's it called? Suppressing them. And then if you, like, just keep... If you either don't speak up with them, or you just kind of, like, let your friends do whatever they're doing, or even agreeing with your friends that are trying to, like, keep someone below or someone down, then... Because I see that a lot. Story time. I had an unpopular opinion in one of my friend groups, and I was sort of, like, what's the word? Dismissed?
Like, alienated?
Not necessarily. It was kind of... They're just kind of, like, quick to dismiss me for thinking that way. And then a bunch of other people would kind of, like, gang up on me and be like, why would you think that way? Why are you saying this? You're just trying to put someone down. You're just trying to do this. You're just trying to do that. And when that wasn't even my intention whatsoever. And that was, like, coming from multiple different people. And I was just kind of like, okay, I see exactly what's going on here. And my way of dealing with that is just walking away. Like, I'll just kind of be like, I'll state my business and then just, like, leave. Because I don't want to deal with people that are just going to, like, constantly be dismissing me when I'm trying to speak facts. Like, I don't know what you want me to say here. But yeah.
Oh, gosh. But, I'm sorry that even happens to you. That sucks.
No, I mean...
That sucks a lot.
It's just, something I got kind of used to the point... That's why I started walking away. I was like, it's not worth your energy to keep having to fight this fight over and over again. Because sometimes people just won't listen to you, and that's just on them. You can't always change someone's mind just because you want them to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not how people work. So, not to be, like, having a quitter's mindset, but if it's for your own health, then yeah, just at the end of the day, just walk away.
Don't be afraid to hit that block button.
Don't be afraid. I'll always be saying that.
Literally, like, I feel like, why are we so hesitant to block people? Like, or cut off communication. I know people say it's immature sometimes, but you know what? I
think it's more mature to be able to do that.
Like, maybe if you just say, hey, I'm going to take a second to maybe step away from the situation and really, like, reflect on everything that's happened, and I'll get back to you later. Like, say that, cut communications for a little bit, and then come back. Or don't come back,
Whatever.
Like, whatever is good for you,
Because, like, what they're going to say to that.
Exactly.
Depending on, like, their reaction, that you kind of gauge how mature they are. Because if they're, like, in that situation I was talking about earlier, like, I understood why someone was doing what they did, but they didn't understand why I was trying to contradict them. Like, whatsoever. They weren't even trying to understand at all. Like, I was desperately trying to help them, but they weren't even, like, considering my point of view whatsoever. And I was just kind of like, okay.
And some people just don't want to listen, and they only want to listen to the sound of their own voice.
Yeah, they want to just, in sociology, it's called, like, confirmation bias, when you only want to, like, take in the information that appeals to your own preconceived mindsets, and you kind of ignore everything else.
Yeah.
So,
you gotta recognize that, and then learn how to shut up. Because sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a wall when I talk to certain people, especially about, like, something that they got, like, the nail on the head with them. They're like, I'm not gonna change my mind, but they keep on bringing the problems that come from it to, like, a group chat or to discussion, and you're just like, listen, you lay out all the facts, and if they don't get it, they don't get it. That's okay. Just end, like, your concern there. Because I feel like it's kind of a waste of time to try to convince somebody who doesn't want to be convinced, and that's okay, That's part of, honestly, I think that's also kind of part of maintaining a healthy relationship, like a platonic one, is just knowing when to stop. And just knowing when to let this person navigate their lives as their own.
You only have so much time in your day. You can't spend all of it worrying about someone else when they aren't even worrying about you in return, or, like, contemplating the consequences of their own actions. So, because
with friends, like, we're there to support each other and stuff like that, and we're growing together, and I think that's why it's so beautiful. But, not all their business is your business, and that is okay.
Like, you don't have to be, just because you want to be a good friend doesn't mean you have to, like, always support your friend's decisions. That's what I've learned in the past, is that, like, I can love someone, and I can be your friend, but I don't always have to, like, be behind you 24/7, especially when you're making some bad decisions.
Yeah. Also, okay, being, like, you're talking about enabling people, like, being an enabler. If somebody is obviously doing something that is not morally, logically, like, correct, and it's gonna harm them in some way, emotionally, physically, sexually, all of that, I think it is okay, like, it's okay to have a lengthy conversation with them, and to bring up the conversation and try to aid them. But then again, if they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen. But you don't need to actively support people just because they're your friends, of course, because that puts you in a lot of uncomfortable situations, too, and that can get you hurt as well. So, think about, not saying, like, not in a selfish way, but you gotta think about yourself a little bit.
Put yourself first.
Put you first.
Because you are the only person that's ever gonna be you. You know what I mean? No one's gonna be you. You're not gonna be anybody else. Focus on yourself.
Touching on that subject, I think that, like, especially with friend groups, when you think of a friend group, a lot of people think of, like, people who are super, super similar. Like, like the whole Mean Girls little trope. And it's just like, you got this girl.
The jocks, the preps, all these, like, different
the nerds, the band kids. I think friendships that are super diverse in terms of, like, the way people think, the way people dress, the way people act, those are really good, because you have to have your own, like, self-identity in a friendship. and you shouldn't be trying to transform yourself.
Because you should not be conforming to whatever the hive mind of the group is, or else that can lead to something really.
Exactly. Like, why wouldn't you want to be in an environment where you're comfortable with being your true self?
And, like, expressing your authentic opinions.
Exactly.
Because if you are ever in a place where there's kind of a hive mind, then that's why I said you can get suppressed if you try and express your opinions. So, having that individuality wherever you are is important. Never try and be someone who you aren't.
Because that just leads you into a spiral of, like,
identity issues.
Like, I don't know who I am. And you're crying on the floor, looking in the mirror with smeared mascara, and you're just like, what is happening to me?
Because we've all been there.
We've all been there. But yeah, also, people, don't force yourself into friendships. If they obviously are not clicking with you, or you're not clicking with them, take a step back and do a little walk away, you know? It's alright to not, like, be friends with people. You can be acquainted. You can be, like, yeah, they're a classmate. Oh, I work with them. I acknowledge them. You don't need to be buddy-buddy with everyone. And I think with friends, too, we think that we have to have so many. Like, you could just be nice to folks. You don't need to, like, wiggle your way into their lives either. Because, again, I think we're all obligated to wanting certain people in our lives. And, you know, some people really, like, we've had some experiences where we've been on both situations where it's just like, oh my god, I need to be friends with these people because, oh my god, they're so popular and whatever.
And also, it's a friend of a friend situation.
Yeah.
Like, that happens a lot where, like, you have a friend that has all these friends, but you don't necessarily like them that much.
And that's okay. Like, that's literally okay. Because we all have our own lives. And our own little, like, I don't know.
You're not obligated to hang out with someone that you don't want to hang out with at the end of the day.
I really used to be like that, and I would just sit there super uncomfortable.
Trying really
hard.
Trying so hard to fit in with these people.
And I'd be like, yeah, like, is there something wrong with me that I'm not liking these people and I'm not liking what they're talking about? Like, girl, no.
The minute you have to even contemplate that is when you know something.
Yeah, you know something's up. Because, you know, we're not going to always agree with each other, and that's okay, but we can just leave it at that. And just be like, okay, you could stay over there, I'd stay over here, we could coexist in peace, and we're good.
But I think the best part about high school friendships, and friendships in general, is that, like, even after you have all these rocky ones, these turbulent ones, there's always going to be someone you find that you really just click with.
Yeah, like you.
And, yeah, like you too. So.
Oh gosh, you're really just existing in this crazy little life right now. And we're just like, we'll have our little discussions and stuff in our senior project class. I will, like, pour out my deepest, darkest secrets to this woman, and I'll be like...
And I will hold your hand through it and just be like, wow.
And I'll just be like, oh, what's happening to me? And she'll be like, girl, calm down. I'm like, okay. And I'll talk about, like, even our other friends and stuff that's going on. And we're just like, okay, you handled that a little rocky, but you know what? Learn from
Olivia and I love to talk shit. That's kind of one of our favorite activities, because I feel like a lot of people are crazy. I feel like us, too, we're pretty sane, so we can kind of like...
Oh, we're sane?
I mean, compared to, like, some of the other people that we know. So just being able to find someone that you really just, like, are able to be comfortable with and be yourself around, that's, like, an experience like nothing else.
It's a breath of fresh air. And it's
that's why we've been talking a lot about, like, the negative stuff, but there's honestly some really, really good positive friendships you can find.
It's like your butt cheeks are just, like, unclenched when you...
That is one way to put it.
It's like you're so, like, you have so much tension and so much anxiety and so much stress, and you're just like, I can't be comfortable around anyone and I can't relax. But when you're finally in an environment or with, like, a person that makes you feel like, damn, I could just talk to this person and not put on, like, a mask.
Comfortable and validated and all that fun stuff. That's what you should really be looking for when you're looking for a friend, is just someone that you can just kind of take everything off. Not your clothes, I mean, hold on. Pause.
Whoa.
But just, like, any, like, mask you wear throughout the day to please other people, if you're able to just, like, take it off and just be yourself to somebody, that's the best kind of friendship.
That's the best stuff. Everybody needs their own little person, you know? It's cool.
Call me little. I'm 5'4", isn't that short?
I'm 5'8", so.
Anyway. I feel like we've talked for long enough.
Yeah.
It's been
42 minutes. Listen, I think you could get something from this.
We're gonna edit out a lot of that.
We're gonna end it, but thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you didn't get bored of me rambling a little bit. But
it was definitely interesting. I hope you didn't get bored of me rambling a little bit. On that note, we will see you guys in the next episode. Don't know what it's gonna be. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
Tune in next time.
Bye.